Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amelia and today we are continuing on with the end of year type content, and we are going to be, of course, as you have seen from the title, getting into my 2025 reading journal and setting it up. Now I am once again using a Ferris wheel press journal in the square shape. I just really like this shape for reading journals, and this is kind of a boring color, but it was the only color I could get my hands on, so we make do. And I think I heard that they were discontinuing them actually, so I'm a little bit nervous about that because the only other journals I can find in square are the Archer and Olive journals, and they charge like $30 to ship to Canada, and I could pay $30 for a journal. I think these cost $30, but I am not paying $30 for shipping. I will just choose a different size if it comes to that next year, but I might try to verify if that's actually true, and if it is, maybe I can get my hands on one for next year now so that I can delay the time when I have to figure it out. But yeah, we are going to be setting this up, and I've already written a piece of paper, started sketching everything out. Actually, I think I've pretty much sketched out everything, so I guess that's kind of all I have to say. Let's go ahead and jump straight into the setup. Hello friends, welcome back to my reading journal. It's been a while since I did a reading journal setup type video. Honestly, I've been kind of slacking on the reading journal lately, but it is exciting to be sharing it with you again and getting into a new journal for the new year. It always brings with it new motivation to actually work on the journal, make it pretty, actually complete it, all of that stuff. So yeah, we are, as I said, setting up for 2025, and for this year's theme, initially looking at just the title page, I think it kind of looks a bit similar to last year's theme because I'm using the dragon and cloud elements again. However, as we go through, you'll see that it is in fact certainly not at all the same theme, and this year's theme is windows to the imagination. So throughout I'll have a whole bunch of arches, and each of them is featuring a different scene from my imagination. And so for the title page, we are doing a floating islands scene, and we have some castles, and as I said, some dragons. I didn't initially have the dragons, but it felt like it, needed something more. Floating islands aren't enough. You gotta also have dragons, clearly. And I also went for a fantasy sort of font. I believe that's what it was called, was fantasy. I will find the name of it and put it up for you guys just so you know, and I will try to link it in the description as well, because fonts are art as well, and we should try to credit those artists where we can. So yes, I will link that font in the description for you. But yeah, so this theme, it took a while, not just specifically drawing it in my reading journal, but coming up with all the different ideas for the windows. And I have a whole sketchbook page of my initial concept sketches, and I did end up pretty much just duplicating most of those straight into my reading journal. Some of them I expanded upon a little bit, or I think I still have several that I didn't actually use yet, but I might use them still. Do leave some spaces a bit empty in the end, and I'll sort of talk about that when we get there. But yeah, this is the title page so far. I was originally, as you can kind of see from the pencil markings, going to write the title multiple times around the whole arch, but it wasn't quite dividing properly into three, and I had already written out the first one properly, so I didn't want to do it again. So I decided for now to leave it as one. I think I like it. I feel like maybe if I did it 3 times it would be too many, but feel free to let me know in the comments if you think I should do that. Also, I apologize if you hear some banging. There's construction happening, and I would wait for it to finish, but they're probably going to be here most of the day. So, you do what you can. But we are now on my to be read page, and my TBR page is kind of one of those pages in my journal that tends to go a little bit unused. Partially just I don't know, I don't remember to check it when I'm looking for something to read. I feel like I always have in my mind some idea of what I want to read next. And so I'm rarely like, oh, I have no idea what I want to read and like needing to go and check that, because I don't know. I just feel like I remember, or I'll watch like videos about books and then those ones will be in the forefront of my mind. So I just end up going for those. But I did want to include it still, just as a space if I want to write some stuff down. Although I mostly kind of use my phone for that. Like I will take screenshots if I'm watching a video and they're talking about books, or I'll take pictures of books in the bookstore or in the library that I think are interesting and I might want to read later. But nevertheless, I left a little bit of space, and then I also divided it into 2 sections, as you can see. So I have a priority section, which I'm going to fill out with, I think it just ends up being 7 books, and then just a general section, which I left unfilled, and I will come back and fill that out as I come across books that I want to include in it. And as you can see, I'm working on some of my little imagination windows now. So the first one is like kind of a Viking sort of nautical scene, except there is a tentacle monster attacking them. And I really liked the way that my clouds came out in this one. Or that one, I was trying to do like storm clouds. Like, you know how thunderheads are very like tall and kind of ominous. And then I was trying to use like my lines and make them like more and more concentrated as they went further back in the clouds, to give the illusion of like it getting like darker as you moved back into the clouds. And I think it might be a little bit hard to see in the video, but I do like the way that it turned out in like real life when you actually look at it. We are moving on to my book bingo page. So I sketched this all out, and then I was watching, I think it's a Jashi Curran video, and she was talking about like gamifying life, and then it reminded me that I thought it would be cool to like make kind of like STEAM achievements but for reading. But I had already sketched all this out, and I was like, I'm not going back and like changing all this. These are kind of the same idea anyway, it's just like laid out differently. So I'm going for a 5x5 grid, same as last year, but I decided to spice it up by making the center tile an arch and putting one of my little scenes in there. And I did last year, I spiced up the center tile too. I put a dragon in it, but this one's a little more spiced up, I guess. I was trying to make a scene of like an army fighting here, like coming down at each other from like different hills and battling, I guess, which was a little bit hard to do because you want to have like a lot of little guys to sort of sell the scale. And I think it's kind of hard to tell what it's meant to be on the video, but I think in real life I did manage to sort of sell the effect. Through the first few rows I was trying to like draw like a torso and a head and a little sword for each guy, and then like as I got further back I just switched into doing like dots and then like some lines as if there was like swords or whatever. And then I've got like a little banner in the front and some sun rays in the back, you know, ideas could be kind of like God rays coming down over a battle. So I don't know, I think it worked out all right. And then using the same font that I'm using for all the titles to do little numbers. And I'm gonna do, last year I put all my book bingo prompts on like a little tip-in on the inside of the front page, and I'm gonna do the same thing again this year, but I think I'm also gonna leave space to write down which book I counted for each prompt, because this year got a little bit confused because I was trying to have each book only count once, but then I was like, oh, I don't remember, I had a few that would have counted for 2, and I couldn't remember which I had counted them for. And yeah, so I think I'm going to leave space to write down which was which this year, just so that it's easier to keep track of, I suppose. But we are now onto my series tracker, and in some aspects this is going to be very similar to last year, but I did also add a second page to count all of my series that are less priorities, but like still series that I'm kind of actively reading. This way I can kind of see at a glance, you know, most of the stuff that I have going on, how far through it I am. And I left one space empty for a different series. I could have filled it in, but I was like, let's be real, I'm probably going to start something this year and I might want to have a space to track that. I can always add another series tracker in later on, but this will serve as at least one buffer space. And then I have the 3 sort of main series that I want to concentrate on this year, give them a little bit more space on the left-hand side there underneath the title, and those ones are going to be Malazan, Mistborn, and Sun Eater. And I also did 3 little windows to the imagination there, and although they're like beside the series, they're not related to the series at all, partially because for Sun Eater I haven't read any of them yet. Well, I haven't read anything from like Mistborn yet either, but I have read from the Cosmere. But I decided it would just be easier to just use some designs from my sketchbook. So we've got like a little mushroom snail guy. He's got a mushroom growing on his head and like in his shell. But don't worry, it's not parasitic. He just grows mushrooms, okay? He's just that kind of snail. And then we have a little archer for Mistborn, and I have a like a kind of airship type deal for the final one down there. And then I'm just using arches as my method of tracking the entries. I'm not sure if I'm going to put numbers in them. I think I might just leave them and, just color them in as I go. And I'm not sure yet what color I want to use for coloring stuff in, like tracking stuff. Last year I had used silver, but I could use it again, or I could use gold, but I kind of feel like maybe using some sort of pale color, like gray would stay with the black and white theme, but I feel like maybe gray is a little boring. I also have like a really pale green and a really pale blue, so one of those could be a good option, but I don't know, I'm a little bit undecided. I could also use like a bold color, although I think it might be a bit too much, or it might look cool, like everything black and white and then just like one bold accent color. I really don't know. So yeah, feel free to make your suggestions in the comments if you have any ideas about what color I should use. At this point, I have not colored anything in yet, so it's not too late. But I am just working on the other, like the extra series trackers now. I just decided to use kind of like loading bar type situation and then just divide them up by the number of books that are in the series. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to the series tracker. So my next spread is one that I didn't include last year, but I thought it might be kind of interesting to include this year. It's something I've seen people do in like their bullet journals and stuff, but there's no reason it cannot be used for a reading journal. And that is a year in themes spread. So I'm just doing a title, and then I'm doing 12 arches, one for each month of the year, where I can draw a little representation of the theme that I decided to use for that month. So it's very simple in terms of the setup now, and most of like the time and sort of decoration, I guess, for this spread will come throughout the year as I use my reading journal and come up with all the themes and fill them in throughout the year. I still have no idea what I'm going to do for my January theme, which like you would think, it's coming to the end of the year now. I should probably start thinking about it, but I mean, technically it's only December 8th today, so I still have time. But I feel like for the January theme, you want it to be good because, you're starting off the new journal. Technically you already started, I guess, in like the beginning of the year setup, but I still feel like January is still kind of the start. So like you want it to be good, but I don't know. I really have no idea. But anyway, we are on the book bracket spread now, which is another one that I did last year and also the year before. I have not yet filled out the one for this year. Like I said, it's only December 8th, so I need to give it at least until like closer to the end of December, where I can be a little bit more sure that I'm not about to finish another book that's like going to be amazing. I'm about to start Wind and Truth, so I think that might take me a good chunk of the rest of the year. I'm not sure if I'll finish another book after that unless I choose something short. However, I am actually partially way through a novella right now, and I'll probably finish that as well, but I don't think that's going to be, so far, I'm not thinking that's going to be like competing for top book of the year or anything, so I'm not too worried about that. But for this year, I am using more arches again for where the books are going to go. I'm going to print out the covers. I just like the way that looks. I'm going to have to cut them all into little arches, which will be kind of annoying, but I think if I maybe like make them arches digitally first, then it'll be easier when I go to cut them out because I'll have like a guideline, you know? And then we are just, of course, labeling them all. So how this works is you have one arch for each month at the bottom, and you put your favorite book from each month down there, and then you pit them against each other in kind of like I don't know what you call that kind of tournament. Is it called round robin? I don't know. But finally, we have my book's red spread, and for this, I only did the title because I'm thinking that I'm going to print out books as like a whole page and then just like glue that page in so I don't have to cut the arches out and save myself some time with that. So I haven't really decorated it yet either. All right, but now we are getting into a quick flip through of everything that we just did. And so here we have my title page with our floating islands theme. We've got our to be read, which I've now filled out the priority books for. Book bingo, I haven't quite figured out all the prompts for that yet, so that's still on the to-do list. We've got our series tracker, as I said, still need a color to fill that out with. Year-end themes, pretty simple, not much to look at until we actually get some themes going on in there. And then our book bracket, which is kind of the same, doesn't really have much to look at until we get some books in there. And yet another doesn't have much to look at because I'm not 100% sure the strategy for that yet. Alright, so we have come to the end of the video. My reading journal is all set up and ready for next year, at least for the most part. We have, you know, some undetermined still, especially in the world of the book spreads page. But, you know, a reading journal is a living document. It can change as the year goes on. But if you have made it this far in the video, I really appreciate you sticking around. Consider subscribing if you want to see more reading and reading journal type content. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.